Hi, I'm Deb McLeod. I'm a member of the Hub City Turners from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and today we're going to do some decorating techniques that anybody can add to their work. I'm going to show you in another video how to turn fridge magnets. So I've turned a bunch of fridge magnets, and then we're going to decorate them. And I'm going to show you the different decorating techniques on the fridge magnets. They're a wonderful tool to use to learn decorating because they're so small and so tiny that you don't have to stress about it. So if you make a mess, throw it away. Nobody knows the difference. So, and if you get something that you really like, then you can take it and put it onto a bigger piece. And you don't have to then worry that it's not going to turn out. So it's a great practice place to practice different techniques. And so I'm going to show you how we're going to decorate these fridge magnets today, different decorating techniques that you can use in any of your work. So some of them, this was wood burning, branding. So we'll go through that. This is a piece of carragana, so there's no technique on this. We just left the wood as it is. This is silver maple. So when it's a nice pretty wood, not everybody likes to decorate. So some of them are just left plain. So this is a painting and wood burning technique. This one is painted and then it is textured. This one we're going to do is hot glue gun. We're going to do some Tangle, and this is a combination of wood burning and paint again. So we'll just start off and we'll show you how to do each one of those. Okay, we're going to start on the hot glue gun. So you get your hot glue gun and plug it in and make sure that it's really good and hot before you start this process. So we've got our glue gun and it's good and hot. So all you do is just start with your glue gun. And you can do this on any type of a piece. And because this is such a tiny little piece, I try and get a little farther away, and you kind of get these blobs, and we're not worried about the blobs going on the... So we just do that. And okay, when you do the hot glue, make sure that you put it on a surface that the glue isn't going to stick to, that you can pick the glue off so that you can go past it. Either put it on plastic, or this is a high gloss surface, so it's going to come right off. All right, so now we've got our hot glue on there and it's set up. So now we're going to paint it. Okay, I'm going to paint this, and I use golden paints, but you can use, if you're just practicing and it's a piece that you just want to learn on, you can use Walmart paint or Dollarama paint or whatever, just to learn and practice with. But I like the golden paints because they have good light fastness and they won't fade over the years. Okay, so we're just going to give the paint a shake. And then we're going to just, and I just use, for most of this, I just go to Dollarama and get paintbrushes. They don't have to be anything particularly special. So all you do is just paint the whole thing. So there, it's all covered. So now you just set that aside and let your paint dry on that. And then when the paint is dried, we'll continue. Okay, so now our paint has dried on our one that we put the hot glue on. So now we're going to go back, and this is what you need to do. You need to pull off the hot glue. So what happened with some of these was that when I was putting it on with the glue gun, the strings were a little bit too thin and the paint seeped in underneath, so you really don't see those very well. So that's something to remember to get little bigger globs so that it creates a random pattern. Gives you something different. Okay, we're going to show you how to do the technique on this one. So first of all, I painted it a green. You can paint it any color you want, and I've let that dry. So now that it's dry, we're going to do some sponge paint. So to do sponge paint, I do believe you can buy these at Walmart, and they're sea sponges. You just get a little bag of them, and they're not expensive. So the trick with sponging is that you need to get your sponge wet in the water first, and then wring it out really well. You want it wet, but you don't want it dripping with water. So you want to wring that out. And then you shake up your paint, whatever you want. I'm just using, this is just some cheap deco art paint, I think from either the dollar store or... So you can pour this in a little dish if you were doing a big project, something that was easier. So I want to get a part of the sponge that I think is going to give a good little texture. So I think right in here is maybe going to give me the best texture. So I'm going to kind of ball that up, and I'm going to dip it in the lid because it can get in the lid. So now that's too much. So I'm just going to take a towel and I'm just going to just daub a little off because I don't want this to be too dark. So all you have to do is you just daub it, little bits. And that's still coming off too thick. So you're just pouncing it here and there just to give it some more depth. Now you can do this on an object and call it done. You don't have to do anything else with it. And that gives it just a little bit different than the regular paint. And this here, where if you get a blob like this where it's too much, take a clean part of your sponge and just go back and pick some of that off and get rid of that dark blob. So there, now now it's got the background of the gold, and you could do a whole piece like this and just leave it. That can be your finished product. But we're going to do just a little touch of wood burning on there, just to add a little more to it. And we'll clean out our sponge, make sure it's dry. So for wood burning, I use, I have a razor tip wood burner and a Burn Master. And they're both excellent burners. The razor tip is an excellent burner for shading, doing pictures and stuff like that, because it has you can get it to a lower temperature and it's great for that. If you want to do branding, which we call this branding, so it gets very hot, then the razor tip doesn't do quite as good a job of that because it doesn't get as hot. So I have the Burn Master, which gets very hot and makes the branding very easy. Your iron doesn't cool down, so you can just keep going. So you can get the Burn Master in Canada, at chippingaway.com, and it's out of Ontario. That's where I've gotten mine from. And Razor Tip, of course, is Razor Tip out of Martinsville in Saskatoon. And with the Burnmaster, this is a Razor Tip bit, which I'm going to use on this. This is one of their ball pens with a little tiny ball on the end, and that's what I'm going to use to do this decoration. And when you buy the Burnmaster through Chipping Away, they also sell Razor Tip, but I do believe you can get a better deal at Martinsville. But they send you the adapter that you can put on your Razor Tip pens to adapt to your Burnmaster burner, which makes it really nice because all of the pens that you have from Razor Tip can be used on your Burnmaster. And I'm not sure, but I do not believe the Burnmaster has, we're going to get to that, but the Razor Tip has a pen that you can make your own bits and put them in the pen, and I don't think you can do that with the Burnmaster pens. They come pre-made and they've got to fit in those holes unless you can make your own. So that's the advantage over the Razor Tip pens, but you can always buy Razor Tip pens with a Burnmaster machine, because then you can make the bits and they're interchangeable. So all we're going to do for this one is just going to turn this one on, and it heats up very quickly and it will get very hot. You can already see that tip is burning hot, which took not even a second. So we're going to turn it down a little bit. So all I'm going to do is make just a branch, and I'm just starting, and I just have a little bit of an idea in my head. I'm just making a line, and instead of drawing the line, I'm just making the line with little dots. Why, I don't know. It's just something different. So you can see how quickly and easily, and that tip always stays bright red. It stays hot. You never have to wait for that tip to recover its heat. So now I'm going to go back here and put a leaf on. So this is just a stylized leaf, so all I'm doing is making like the center vein, and all I'm going to do here is just little dots to indicate the veins. And as you get to the tip, they progressively get a little smaller. So most leaves on a tree usually are across from each other. So we'll make another one over here. Now, a tip for when you're burning indoors, I have a fan. I don't have it on right now because it's noisy, but you turn the fan on and you put the fan in reverse so that it's sucking away from you, and it will suck the smoke away from you, which really helps when you're burning, because this can get pretty smoky. So we're just going to do another little leaf. And you can see this isn't hard. It doesn't take rocket science to do this. And we'll put one more at this end. And I just did on this one, I just thought it would be nice to have a little bit of counterbalance. That's something you need to think about when you're decorating, is always use the golden rule. Use the 2/3, 1/3. If I would have put this straight in the middle or straight across the middle this way, it wouldn't have been pleasing. So it's always better to do 1/3, 2/3. So I've kind of got it up on an angle here, and then just to balance that off, I thought I would just bring one leaf and just bring it in from the top, just to add a little. Now when it doesn't seem to burn and it gets gummed up, have a old wire brush, and I just scratch off the edge, because this gets a little gummed up with the paint. You can see the difference, how much better it burns once I clean that off. There. So this guy's done. And now that it's done, I would take this and I would use a spray lacquer. This one has had spray lacquer put on it. so you can see a little bit of a difference. So the lacquer just helps protect the paint and protect it. So I just do a quick, just use a spray can of lacquer and give it a quick shot, and then it's all done. Done with this one is still keeping that golden rule of 1/3, 2/3 in mind. And I just took a pencil and roughly get a line from one side to the other. And I'm just kind of drawing that in with a pencil, because then if it's wrong, I can erase it. I'm not committed. And when I'm done with the burning and the painting, you're not going to ever see that pencil line if I decided I didn't like it. So that looks close to be where I want that line. So now I'm going to take the wood burner. I've got I think what they call a knife edge. So it's kind of got a nice rounded edge, which is really great for making lines and designing, and it's rounded here so that it doesn't dig into the wood. So I'm going to take this, turn this on. So now I'm just going to follow my pencil mark. And you don't have to do this in a smooth motion. Like, you can start and get halfway, and then we'll come back here. And I still think that line needs to be a little wider here. And it only works good so far. So now I need to turn it around. Hands in that angle, so we'll turn it around and join those two lines up. There. So now they're joined. So now we don't want this one anymore, so we'll set it up here to cool off. And we're going to switch to a different pen. And the last one we had was a little tiny ball. This one's a little bit bigger of a ball. So I'm going to turn the heat up a little more because I want this one to have a bigger texture. So all I'm doing with this ball is I'm just burning little holes. And I'm just trying to get that solid across, basically solid across here. When you're doing small things like this, these procedures go pretty quick. If you were going to do a great big project, you might considering either having an open window or doing this outside. It can get pretty smoky, but we should be okay because this isn't, you can see some of the smoke coming off. And you can tell when it starts to build up on your tip, it just won't burn as well or as quick. So if you just give it a quick brush and go back, and now that we have this burnt, we can paint it. So we'll just shut the burner off. And when I painted this one, I didn't paint where the burning was. So I just paint up to the edge. That was my preference. So now that we've got that on, we're going to go back and do the same technique on this one that we did on the green one. We're just going to sponge paint it. I have a cat in the shop and he's quite annoying because now I have cat hairs and everything. All right. I'm going to ball this up, and that's way too much paint. I can tell that already. So I'm going to get rid of some of that, and then we're just going to sponge onto here. So that guy is done, and now he just needs a coat of lacquer. Okay, so now we're going to decorate this one to make it look similar to this one. So we're doing the golden rule again, 1/3, 2/3, roughly. And if a person knew what you were going to do when you had it on the lathe, normally you figure that out. And while this was turning on the lathe, I would have taken and made a line in here. So I would have had a line, a straight line to work off of. But because I didn't know what I was going to do, I now have to get a straight line across here. I'm not sure quite how to accomplish that, but we'll try a piece of paper. Roughly, just something so I kind of get it kind of straight. Use that as a bit of a guide. To get something that isn't straight, I can see that. We're trying to eyeball it straighter. We'll take this same liner tip, turn it on. I think this is cranked up high from the ball. We'll turn it down a bit. So now I just want to go in there and burn a line. Just straight across, follow that pencil line. That's it. So now that we've got that, we can start, oh, just a minute, let's do this top part while we've got this bit on. So we'll go back to this bit, and I'm going to make these little lines around the top because they were done with this bit. So all I did, I previously carved that little lip out. I left a little lip when I turned it, just a tiny bit of a lip, and then I just carved them out. But after, when I decided I was going to brand it, I am now just wood burning that to make it match with the branding. You can leave it that way. I just kind of did a little bit of a line across here to give it some more definition, and then all I did was this on the side to just burn this a bit, and I just burnt the top. So there, now we'll switch to the branding bit. So this is our branding bit, which we're going to use to do the bottom. Now, I don't know of a place where you can buy these, but Molly Winton teaches you how to make them, and I will show you quickly her technique on how she makes those bits. She takes the drill bits that come with shafts on them, she cuts the drill part off and leaves this smooth shaft. Then you buy, we call it nichrome wire, but here it's called nickel chrome, and this is 0.63 millimeters. But you can get, Amazon.ca has this wire. I know you can buy from Razor Tip in Saskatoon. You can buy it, but you don't get it in the rolls. You just get it in a couple of straight pieces in these, so it doesn't give you that much to work with, where you can buy the rolls, and then you've got a lot more to play around with to make your own kinds of designs that you would like to use. So how Molly starts out is she takes I just cut a piece of wire off, she puts it down on the shaft, she takes some vice grips and just clamps it on there, holds it on with a vice grip. and you have that tail hanging out. Then you just take it and you just start wrapping it around. So when you put a design on something, always make it uneven. 3s, 5s, 7s, never 2s or 4s. One more. And then when she's done, she's got, this comes down like this. So now this is way too long, so we can let this off, slide this off, bend this down, because both of these wires need to come down together so that they will fit on this shaft. Spinning that around there. So now I'll just cut this length off, this side off, to roughly match that other side. And now we have the bit. All right, so now we've got our bit made. We've got it in our burner. So we turn it on. Now for this, you've got quite a few loops of wire. So we want this up so it's red hot because we're going to brand. So, and we've got a little more wire, so maybe a little hotter with this one. All right, she's pretty red hot there. So what Molly does, and that's just a preference, you could do whichever way she wants. She makes her top row all this way. And that's kind of like a border. So it's all up. So we're going to make 2 this way. And we're going to flip it and go 2 this way. And then we just go back and repeat it. So it's 2 and 2. We started out with 2 this way. So now we're going to change it and do the opposite. 2 are going to go up, 2 are going to go down. And I just brought this around on the bottom just to kind of finish it off. It doesn't hurt to finish the bottom of your pieces anyway, because everybody's going to look at the bottom, so you should put some design on there anyway. There. So all that's left to do this one is put some spray lacquer on it. Okay, when we do the Tangle, it is done with a pen, which I'll show you, but it can be put on vases. It's very easy to do. It can look complicated, but it's really not, and it's very relaxing. You can sit and do it while you're watching TV. Where wood burning, you can't always do that because of the smoke. So these are just some different ones that I have done. I'm going to show you how I do Tangle on some of my vases. Tangle ends up, it can look complicated, but when you break the patterns down, they become very simple. And what I do is I never just go and tangle onto my piece. This is one of my practice boards, so I painted this white so I can practice. And I practice, a good place to get tangles is YouTube shows you how to do lots of them, Pinterest, and you collect your ideas, and then I sit and I work them and keep drawing them until I'm comfortable with drawing them on paper. Then I'll move over to the wood, and then you get used to the design, so it goes a little easier on here. And the design I picked to go on this little vase starts out, most tangles start out this way. They're just a series of dots. So you start and make a row of dots. So then you go to your second row of dots, and your second row of dots should fall halfway in between your first row of dots. And then you go back, your third row is going to be the same as your first row. You go back in and make your dots in line with that row. We'll do one more row for practice. And actually I'm just going to show you the design on here, because you aren't going to be able to see what I'm doing on this one. It's too small and too tight of an area for you to see what I'm doing. So now I have all of my dots. So all I'm going to do is connect this first row dot with this second row dot. And it's usually an under and an over. So I'm going to go under this one. I'm going to go up and over that one. So it's like a flattened out S. So then I start on this next one. I come up to this line and I'm going to go under and over. And then I'm going to go under and over. And then if this was the end of my vase, I'm going to just pretend that I started another over and under to fill this. And this one on the top, I will just pretend it was another line and I'll go over. So now I'm going to come down to the second line, and everything is just a repeat. Once you start, it's always a repeat. So I'm just going to go under and over, under and over, under and over, and then finish this off. Don't worry if these lines don't connect, because we're going to come back in and color those in solid dots. So it's just a repeat, under and over, under and over, under and over. It's not complicated, and once you get the rhythm, it goes really fast. So now we've got all these unders and overs. So now we're going to come back and get our squares, and it's the same thing. We're going to start here, under, and go over this one. We're going to start this one, go under and over, under and over, under and over the next one that's not there. So then you come back to this line, it's under and over, under and over, under and over, back here, under and over, under and over, under and over. So that's your pattern. And what I was using for a pen was, they call them micron pens from this, Pigma makes these. I do believe you can get them at Michael's. You can likely get them off of Amazon. And these come in different different tips. So you get really super fine to thicker. And these are all archival inks. So they're color fast. They're good quality ink. And they're not going to fade away on you. So I used, when I was drawing this, I was using a 3, which doesn't matter. You use whichever one works for you. And now I want a little fatter one, because I'm going to color in, I'm going to go to an 8. I'm going to color in all of these little loops that I made. So now I'm going to color those solid. And that's why it didn't matter if they didn't all touch, because I would get them when I go back and color it in. And this is why you want a fatter one to color in those lines. So there we go. That is the pattern that I put on here. Same thing, just I did the row of dots, and then I went back and did my unders and overs and unders and overs. Okay, so now we're going to do this little one to make it look like this one. So how I did this one was like everything else. This is my little test board that we just did the tango on. So I painted part of this board blue. And I wanted just a fine line. So I've got the tiniest little ball. I don't know if you can even really see it, but it's a little carving ball. And Razor Tip has these bits out in Martinsville. So you can practice with different kinds of tips. That's why I always have a practice board, so that I can take the different chips, and I've painted my wood, so now I can carve in it and see what it's going to do. Because you don't want to wreck your turning, so you just practice on a board. And you decide, well, what looks good, how you want to do it. So that's all that we're going to do on this one, is carve this. Now, you got to remember that golden rule again. Make sure we're going to leave this line, and I kind of I needed to get it a little higher up. I got it too close to center. So we'll try and see if we can't do this one a little better. So all you do is just start carving. Oh, I'm going to turn this upside down and start from the bottom. And I'm just making, just wiggles is all I'm doing. And trying not to get the ends all lined up. Like, you don't want to stop in the same spot all the time. You want to bring this so it's past that line and then quit. And this comes past and quit. So it's more random looking than all lined up. And brush the sawdust away so you can see where you're at. And you might want to, as you get closer up to where we want this line, which I'm kind of guessing about here, maybe I want to get the pattern not as dense, a little more and keep it thicker here. So maybe we need to come up just a little more. When I turn it this way, that looks not quite 2/3 to me. I think I need to come a little bit higher. So then let's do the top part. Because of the grain of the wood, I need to hold this upside down. That's what's fun about the test things. So you could make some linear patterns. You could draw some straight lines maybe, and then I don't know, I'm just winging it here. And then you could come back and you could fill them in this way on this one. Go this way. The possibilities are endless of patterns that you could do by just painting a surface and carving it away. That's what's fun about the practice boards. If you paint up your practice boards, I just use scraps and run them through, sand them up, and then you've got an area, a place to practice all the patterns before you put it on. And then when you get one that you really like, put it on a bigger vase or a bigger piece. So then this just needs to be spray lacquered and you're good to go.